Dr. Tushar Choksi sir, and Laughing Doses by Dr. Ashish Shah. This is a unique CME where we are having an academic lecture as well as a comic lecture. So hope you all enjoy this totally different combination of CME. Do join in, and please mute yourself. Please request everyone to mute yourself while the lecture is going on. We'll have the Q&A round after Dr. Tushar Choksi's lecture is over. So please mute yourself till then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chetna. I consider this is our ISA family. So it's just a family talk. So today's my topic is can it be audible? Ne?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah,
Okay.
you are audible.
So today's my topic is opioid-free anesthesia. And again, I started opioid-free total intravenous anesthesia because it is I'm liking very much. So there is a disclosure statement. I have no financial relationship with any commercial interest related to the content of this presentation. And I will discuss many medications with my experience and recent developments in opioid-free anesthesia. Opioid-free anesthesia is only one of the technique providing anesthesia. It is not against any volatile anesthesia or any other anesthesia techniques. And opioid-free anesthesia is a scientifically based and systemic treatment to the surgical patient in perioperative period. Now, my lecture outline will be, I have just brief introduction, history, definition, why and how OFA came in market, opioid epidemic, opioid risk, use, abuse, side effect, complications, opioid epidemic in anesthesia, opioid-free anesthesia goals, benefits, method of OFA, OFA indication, contraindication, multimodal and intravenous drugs for the OFA in that details, standard OFA inductions and maintenance from the book, my experience in techniques of OFA and OFTIVA with economics, conclusion, take home message, my verdict, cartoons, thanks and join ISOFA. I started Indian Society of Free Anesthesia just 2 months back on Facebook. So first slide, introduction. See, the practice of anesthesia requires a full spectrum of the drugs since its inception, from which an anesthetic plan can be implemented to achieve desired level of surgical anesthesia, analgesia, amnesia, and muscle relaxation. These are the 4 fundamental parts of the anesthesia circle. And opioid-free anesthesia is a technique where no intraoperative systemic neuraxial intracavitary opioid is administered during the anesthesia period. But the epidemic of opioid abuse is increasing, and the number of deaths are secondary to opioid overdose is also increasing since last 30 years. And for patient safety, anesthetists have to start or develop a protocol centered on the minimizing or even avoiding the opioid anesthesia, opioid-free anesthesia, or opioid-sparing anesthesia for their patients altogether. So opioid-free anesthesia is possible as an alternative to opioid anesthesia, provide benefits to selective group of the patients, facilitates postoperative anesthesia with less opioids, and the most beautiful part is enhanced recovery after surgery. If you go to the history, then the opioids are given since millennium, and the history of synthetic opioids starts from 1950 to 1950, where the modern anesthetic technique developed. And the Belgium was the first country to start the fentanyl. And subsequently, the use of the opioid in high dose during surgery became common, very common. However, over the last 20 years, many studies have questioned this practice, highlighting the many unknown the side effect of these molecules. The so-called opioid-free anesthesia techniques were developed in parallel with the better understanding of perioperative period. So first started around 1990, and the following question came in our mind: why is the human body producing endogenous opioid? Is the concept of pain valid during the general anesthesia? What are the effects of the intraoperative opioid on postoperative pain? And is anesthesia without opioid actually possible? Yes. So opioid-free anesthesia has emerged as a new technique and branch of anesthesia like TIVA, neuroanesthesia, cardiac anesthesia like that. So proper definition of OFA is, it is a technique in the anesthesia portfolio with the simple cocktail of the drugs without opioids. In other words, it is a multimodal anesthesia and analgesia, but where you are not using any opioids. Why and how OFA developed? Because of the slowly progressing opioid epidemic. Opioid epidemic started in medicine, like the devastating consequences of the opioid epidemic include the increase in the opioid misuse and related overdose. Even opioid overdose accounted every year more than 1 lakh death, and estimated 40% overdose death involving the prescription. And these are the US data. In the late 1990, pharmaceutical company also has participated and vulnerable with the medical community, with the patients would not become addicted to pain. Relievers and healthcare providers begin to prescribe them at greater. So both are benefited like that. Increased prescription of the opioid medication lead to widespread misuse of both prescription and non-prescription opioids. So since 1990, high-income countries have seen as exponential increase in the opioid misuse and overdose. So opioid crisis started as a opioid epidemic in USA, spread to Europe, and now it is coming to Asia, even in India. And if you consider that there are more than 50,000 deaths occurred in 2019 up till February 2019. So because of this opioid epidemic, opioid overdose death increased. And this rise in opioid overdose deaths outlined in three distinct ways. First started in 1990, first wave. Begin with the increased prescribing of the opioid with overdose death involving the prescription of opioid. Second wave started in 2010, begin with the rapid increase in the overdose death involving heroin. And in 2013, the third wave started with the use of fentanyl. So these are the we are using all these opioids since last 100 years. And the right side there is a fentanyl. These are the synthetic opioids. So what are the opioid risk effect? Opioid has got all the side effects like respiratory depressions, much more in anesthetized patients, need for post-op ventilation with ventilator associated pneumonia, addiction, nausea and vomiting, very common, gastrointestinal dysfunction, ileus, pruritus, and urinary retention. Even I had one case in 1990 when my maternal uncle went for the bypass surgery. In the middle of the night, he was just shouting because of the retention of the urine in Chennai when I was present in his room. So at that time, morphine was given exponentially, like every 2 hours they were started morphine. So I have seen that morphine was the culprit. Opioid and cancer. Dozens of publications are available concerning opioid use in anesthesia, cancer growth, recurrence, and metastasis. But it is doubtful. And the most common side effect of the opioid is opioid-induced hyperalgesia. Hyperalgesia means abnormally heightened sensitivity to pain. We are not noticing post-operatively what happens to post-operative pain. Suppose even one dose of the opioid is given to the patients intraoperatively, so sometimes they need more or demand more post-operatively this opioid, and patient will have more pain. So hyperalgesia after opioids are very common. So these are all the listed the side effect of the opioids from the textbook. So I'll talk for the one slide. Opioid-induced hyperalgesia. What is that? State of the nociceptive sensitization caused by the exposure of the opioid. Patient becomes more sensitive to certain painful stimuli. Patient have prolonged period of the hypersensitivity to pain. And the ketamine is reduce the opioid-induced hyperalgesia. There is no drug available except ketamine which will reduce. And remifentanil is the most culprit drug, followed by fentanyl and morphine. But some opioid benefits also there. Believe me, when came in the market at that time, they introduced because of the hemodynamic stability, and after that it was used for the analgesia and lethal sedation. So opioid epidemics, and after medicine, opioid epidemic started in anesthesia also. Opioid analgesia overdose leading to opioid toxicity has the three features. First, opioid analgesic overdose can have life-threatening toxic effect in multiple organ systems. Second, normal pharmacokinetic properties are often disrupted during the overdose and prolong the intoxication. And third, duration of the action varies among the opioid formulations. And failure to recognize such variation can lead to intraoperative, inappropriate treatment decision, sometimes with lethal results. We are just giving all the opioids to the patient, sometimes 1 ml, 2 ml, post-operatively also, whatever the prescriptions are, but we don't know the exact what we are giving. So why opioid were used in anesthesia? Opioid were primarily used initially because of their safety intraoperative profile. Like I told you, hemodynamic stability, blunting of pain transmission, and provide the basis of post-operative pain recovery. This was the only effect we were using opioids. So now why to avoid opioids? See, all listed side effect I have told you, negative side effect profile like respiratory depression, nausea, vomiting, pruritus, urinary retention, Then it suppresses the immune response. It causes cognitive and sleep dysfunction. It increases the addiction. It also increases the chronic pain with the administration. So one of the $1 million question: what is the alternative to opioids? We know that opioid, we are very now familiar with the, we since last so many years we are using opioids. Now switch over to opioid free anesthesia, it is very difficult sometimes, but since last 3 months I am doing this practice. So replacing opioid with other analgesic will not only reduce the development of opioid addiction, but will also lead to better perioperative outcomes and enhance patient recovery. So if you consider since 175 years, the opioid-free anesthesia has become a new paradigm. Before that, in initial inhalation anesthesia were there, then opioid balanced anesthesia came, then now opioid-free anesthesia, and then again it will be opioid-free anesthesia and analgesia will come in the market. So first concept of the OFA started in 1990, and goals of the OFA in 9 words only. See, he's a Barry Freiberg from the USA, Southern California. He was the inventor of ketofol, and we are calling him as a father of opioid-free anesthesia. And he described the 3 words: measure the brain with BIS, preempt the pain with ketamine, and emetic drug abstinence like opioid. So no much anesthesia, no less anesthesia, only brain fog. BIS value around 50. Main aim in the OFA is anesthetized brain should not come to know about the pain during skin incision. So he has pioneered the OFA practice since last 30 years, and he is very much versatile orator. And I have heard on the net, there are so many lectures on him in the YouTube also. Now we know that what are the components of anesthesia: amnesia, analgesia, sleep, and muscle relaxation. So OFA completes this anesthesia circle. It gives anesthesia, hypnosis, sympatholysis, amnesia, hemodynamic stability, immobility, and neuromuscular blockade. So what are the benefits? It gives stable hemodynamics, no respiratory depression, no addiction except for the ketamine, less need for the post-op ventilation, no nausea, vomiting post-operative, no gastrointestinal dysfunction, and particularly ileus, no pruritus, no urinary retention, prevention of chronic pain. And all listed these benefits, we are day to day, we are seeing these things in our practice. And if you see that what are the advantage of OFA, there was a study from the European Society of Perioperative Care in Patients, and they listed that what are the advantages. So they see that less post-operative nausea, vomiting, earlier recovery, less sedation, less opioid post-op, patient like it, surgeon like it, we like it, nurses like it. So what else you require? So they listed a 17 benefits of opioid-free anesthesia, starting from pre-admission counseling, PA checkup, to even auditing of our anesthesia chart and everything. So mechanism of action of OFA drugs, there are 3 main mechanisms. They act as a GABA receptors, they act on the NMDA receptors, and they act on the PG inhibitors. All these drugs are working on these 3 receptors only. So what are the methods of opioid-free anesthesia? Central sensitization, peripheral sensitization, prevention of opioid-induced hyperalgesia, and all OFA drugs are given on the weight-based dosing. So central sensitization with the propofol etomidate, substance P inhibition like clonidine, dexmedetomidine, and glutamate antagonists like ketamine, nitrous oxide, magnesium, and gabapentin. And management of peripheral sensitization, local anesthetics like peripheral nerve blocks, lidocaine infusion, steroids like dexamethasone, NSAIDs like diclofenac and paracetamols. So all the sets of the circle of the OFA where anesthesia pain relief is there, that completes. OFA indication with its advantages: narcotic abuse history, acute and chronic opioid addiction, all the listed. What here it is, we are giving from any subset of the patients. So there is less analgesic requirement post-operatively, enhanced recovery. This is the most important part of this OFA. It decreases the post-operative nausea, vomiting. It decreases the histamine release, and patient is liking it. Certain OFA contraindication. There is only absolute contraindication is allergy to any adjuvant drug. But relative disorder of the autonomic failure, cerebrovascular disease, critical coronary stenosis or acute coronary ischemia, heart block, extreme bradycardia, non-stabilized patient, hypovolemic shock or polytrauma, elderly patient, and risk 4 patient, ASA risk 4. So if you go to the old way of the anesthesia techniques, then opioid were the primary drug to give. Now the new technique is opioid is the last drug to give. So coming to the main part of this OFA, multimodal drugs in OFA with their advantage. Majority of the drugs used for the opioid-free anesthesia, including benzodiazepine, propofol, ketamine, etomidate, dexmedetomidine, muscle relaxants, and others, adjuvants are easily available in almost all the OT and outside OT. And all these drugs can be given to any subset of the population in surgical procedure without opioids, from geriatric to pediatric. So these are the drugs in one flyer: dexamethasone, magnesium, all benzodiazepine, propofol, ketamine, beta blocker, dexmedetomidine, lidocaine, diclofenac, then paracetamol, everything. I will go some of the one slide for the each drugs. See, dexamethasone, I call it a universal weapon for the anesthesia. In all my patients, whether it is short G or long G or with spinal or without spinal, whatever it may be, I give dexamethasone 8 milligram compulsory. It acts as an antiemetic, anti-nauseating, anti-inflammatory, analgesic, anti-severing. It increases the quality of recovery. And the study has done that no effect on sepsis or sugar in single dose. Sugar increased by only 12.5 to 25 milligram per DL in single dose. Then MGSA4, my very favorite drug of mine. I called it is an intravenous oxygen for the anesthesiologist. It is an antihypertensive, bronchodilator, antiarrhythmic, analgesic, anti-seizure, anti-severing, anesthetic adjuvant, and antacid and mild sedative. Then third drug is best companion of the anesthesiologist, lidocaine. It also analgesic and anti-hyperalgesic. It is anti-inflammatory. It reduces the opioid analgesic consumption. It is an anti-arrhythmic. It improvement in the patient's outcome. And in COVID era, it decreases the aerosol and droplet during extubation. And there is a new use of the lidocaine. It's an anti-cancer drug also. Just recently it was invented. And I'm using esmolol very frequently in my all the laparoscopic and other patients, because it is a highly B1 selective. It appears to be safe in the patient with pulmonary disease. It has got a opioid sparing effect. It is it improves the post-operative pain. It reduces the opioid requirement. And using esmolol during anesthetic maintenance significantly decrease the anesthetic analgesic requirement. So it's an emergency friend for the anesthesiologist. Lastly, ketamine. Ketamine is the brahmastra for the anesthesiologist and the pain relief. There is one study, I think one study done, which is the popular drug in all over the world by the anesthesiologist, and ketamine came the first. So most popular drug, NMDA antagonist, key role and main drug in OFA, best analgesic, amnesic, and opioid sparing effect. Dose less than 0.5 milligram can reduce postoperative analgesic needs and especially seen in opioid tolerant patient. And it has, I told you in previous slide, it has anti-hyperalgesic and hyperalgesic and anti-tolerance effect. Dexmedetomidine, very versatile drug. Now it is used very commonly. Dexmedetomidine has hypnotic, sedative, and analgesic property. Most ideal anesthetic agent available in this era. It has got a opioid sparing effect. Dexcat or Ketodex in combination with 1 milligram, 1 microgram becoming very popular in pediatric opioid-free anesthesia. Patient is sedated but arousable, alert, and response without uncomfortable. Here I would like to say two things. Patient is having a physiological sleep. Patient post-operatively, once you call them, then they will wake up, then again go for the sleep, like what we are sleeping in the midnight. They may quickly return to sedation again, conscious sedation or natural sleep. This drug is becoming widely popular in all parts of the world in all anesthesia techniques. Clonidine is like a brother of this dexmedetomidine. Then it has got, but analgesic property are due to peripheral and central alpha adrenoreceptor agonist. We have to avoid in certain conditions. I'm not using just now, but these are the listed drugs so many people are using. So per oral dose and IV dose I have given here. These two drugs I always given with my patients, like paracetamol. Paracetamol, whatever it may be available, either it is a ampoule 2 ml or 3 ml or 1 gram of pint. It's a preemptive analgesic. It has got an opioid sparing effect. Loading dose is 30 milligram per kilogram and maximum not to exceed 2 gram. Very innocent drugs in OFA and can be repeated every 6 hours interval in dose of 1 gram. Excellent adjuvant in pediatric OFA. Diclofenac sodium, powerful NSAIDs in OFA. I remember one of the conversation with Arvind Bhai 25 years back. He started, even also I have started also intravenous diclofenac sodium 25 years back, and we have studied so many patients. I think Arvind Bhai will be having that conversation. It's a powerful NSAIDs in OFA with analgesia and anti-inflammatory action. Best is given in single dose 1.5 milligram per kilogram IV slowly and maximum is 150 milligram. Always given before. Remember, always given before surgical incision to inhibit the prostaglandin receptors. After surgical incision is there is no effect of diclofenac sodium. Means partial effect. Use aqueous solution only. Avoid in renal, hepatic, pulmonary, and hepatic failure patients. In short, dexamethasone, paracetamol, lignocaine, ketamine, magnesium, everything are very good drugs and you have to use it with your own way. So some offer risks with these drugs: bradycardia with dexmedetomidine, hepatic damage with paracetamol, bleeding, renal impairment and bronchospasm with diclofenac sodium, hallucination, tachycardia, addiction with ketamine, tinnitus, seizure and cardiac arrest with lidocaine, sedation with dex and hypotension with magnesium. But I don't think this can be worried to any anesthetist. Again, European Society has done one study that what methods do you use to reduce opiates in perioperatively. So first, they add additive, they combine with the regional, they combine with the local infiltration, they monitor with the beads, something like that. It's a very good study and everybody should read it. And again, they have done the study which additive they are using. So NSAID came first, paracetamol, then clonidine, then ketamine, lidocaine, magnesium, dexamethasone, dexmedetomidine, gabapentin, and all these things what we have talked. So from the book, I have taken a standard OFA induction. There is a opioid-free anesthesia books are available on the market also and on the online. 10 minutes before prior to induction, you have to give the sympathetic block with the dexmedetomidine or with the propofol, whatever it may be. 1 minute prior to induction, you have to give hypnotic and rapid stress block like lidocaine. With the induction, you have to do with the propofol. Rapid reloading in the reduction, give magnesium sulfate. For anti-inflammatory agent before surgery, you give dexamethasone, diclofenac, paracetamol, and you can give ketamine just before end of the surgery. And on standby, you can put esmolol, metoprolol, nicardipine, ephedrine or mepinephrine. Here, anticholinergic, antiemetic, antacid as per the choice of the patient, and neuromuscular blocking drugs if needed for the surgery. And OFA maintenance. For the sympathetic block, either they are giving dexmedetomidine or clonidine. For the local anesthetic, they are giving lidocaine IV, magnesium sulfate continuous in the pint. Inhalation agent, if anybody is using sevoflurane, desflurane, propofol infusion, NMDA block, or post-operative analgesia with lidocaine, ketamine, block anesthesia, local. These are the standard techniques described in the textbook. Now coming to my OFA, Optiva, I have started not only OFA but Optiva technique, opioid-free TIVA technique. I'm always giving DML mixtures. My first syringe is with the dexamethasone 8 milligram, magnesium sulfate 2 ml, lidocaine 1.5 milligram, 3 to 6 ml. So it is around 9 to 10 ml given slowly at least for 5 minutes. And these are the opioid-free drugs for me or any anesthetist. Then I give intravenous in the pint paracetamol. I put diclofenac sodium in that pint only, and I always give before the surgical incision. And I induce all the patients of Optiva with the KPD, ketamine, propofol, and dex in 1 gem dose. Suppose patient is having 60 kg, then I use 1 milligram ketamine, 1 milligram propofol, and 1 microgram dexmedetomidine. And combination of all these drugs permits lower dose of each individual drug. An advantage is low dose of each agent as compared to full dose. It gives the excellent analgesia anesthesia. Dose of individual decrease the airway complications. It gives stable hemodynamics and there is a rapid recovery. And for maintenance, I use only 2 drugs. That is dexmedetomidine 1 microgram per kilogram per hour or propofol 6 milligram per kilogram per hour. And I stop the infusion drip before 10 or 15 minutes at the end of surgery. So in my 80% of practice, I use KPD mixture in all of TIVA cases. For maintenance, I use DEX or propofol infusion, depends upon surgery, surgical time, and vital parameters. I'm using maximum DEX and started a practice of opioid-free multimodal anesthesia with all these drugs. I am not using nitrous oxide and any volatile agent since last 3 to 4 years. Optui is very useful in this COVID pandemic. Now, one of the slides for the how to give propofol infusion during intraoperative period. First question is, can we dilute propofol from its bulb or ampoule to other IV infusion? Answer is yes. It is compatible and can be diluted in 5% glucose, 0.9% NaSL, sodium chloride, or ringalactate or DNL. Commercially available propofol is in concentration of 1% means 10 milligram. So the fundamental rule of dilution is minimum concentration should be only 2 milligram per ml, no more dilution. So 1 part of the propofol and 4 part of the any dilution. So my method is take 100 ml of normoxidine, remove 20 ml, add 20 ml propofol. It will be 100 ml together. So this infusion contains 2 milligram per ml propofol. Maintenance dose is propofol after bolus is 6 milligram per kilogram, universally accepted. So in 65 kg patient, you can finish this infusion within 30 minutes. Thumb rule is that infusion containing propofol should be finished within 6 hours of after preparation. This is standardly given by the government of USA. In this slide, I have put this web link also.
Tushar bhai,
Now for post-operative pain relief,
Tushar bhai, we
Hello.
will be stopping.
Ah.
The Zoom will stop in next 3-4 minutes. So everyone is requested to rejoin once this. Again I will start.
Okay. I think I'll take 5 minutes more only. So for post-operative pain relief, local infiltration, ketamine, lidocaine. See, I give since last 6 months ketamine, lidocaine drips. That is called ketagain drips in the dose of 0.2 milligram per kilogram per hour, on lidocaine 1 milligram per kilogram per hour, at least for 24 hours. Paracetamol every 12 hour 1 gram, diclofenac every 12 hour 1 milligram per kilogram, but no opioid at all. So my economic of drugs for 2 hour surgery, 1500 rupees only. Sometimes it is extended to 3 hours. So I have listed all these cost and remarks and how much I am giving all these drugs. So surgical procedure under OFA, all the procedure we can go from OT to outside OT, that is a non-operating room anesthesia, NORA, from pediatric to geriatric, from any surgical to medical specialty. Again, European Society, this European Society came that what are the obstacles to adopt the OFA in the anesthesia community? Because there is a new technique, so there is a insufficient guidelines, no journal references compared to other things, no training like that. So my tips for the starting OFA is do not administer opioids, communicate in doubt, educate yourself, keep update with the latest. So in conclusion, do we really need opioid in anesthesia? Opioid crisis became a known reality since 1990. Opioid-free anesthesia is the future of anesthesia. It is slowly but surely being considered. There are very few contraindications. Multimodal analgesia and anesthesia is coming popular, and replacing opioid with other analgesics will not only reduce the development of opioid addiction, but will also lead to better post-perioperative outcome. So what is the take-home message? Opioids can be replaced by multi-drugs. Post-operative pain management